Welcome to the Secure Connections podcast, brought to you by IOTSA, the Internet of Things Security Services Association. I'm Brian Sherman, Content Director for IOTSA, and host of this weekly channel cybersecurity discussion. My special guest on today's episode is Jason Bystrak, Vice President of the Cloud and Services Business Unit at D&H Distributing. We'll explore the shifting role of distribution in the IT services landscape today and discuss the latest solutions and opportunities for the MSP community. Welcome to Secure Connections Podcast, Jason.
Hey, thanks very much, Brian. It's good to be with you today.
Yeah, it's great. I'm glad we can finally get you on here. I know you're a busy guy, so we definitely appreciate your time and look forward to having a fun discussion today.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, you're a very familiar face in the channel. At least I can say that. I see you all the time anyway, in a non-virtual world. But I believe this is your first time on the podcast. So can you tell our listeners a little about yourself and your role at D&H?
Yeah, you got it, Brian. So I've been with D&H for about 2 years now, and I came in to really build out our cloud computing practice at D&H. And that's led to a bit of an expansion. We've been doing really well with that, largely Microsoft-based, but we added in a lot of different solutions. I think we've got about 30 different vendors in our portfolio now and a large team of over 50 people dedicated to it. But we've also added on responsibilities for our professional managed services practice, our security practice, and also our unified communications practice. And the reason for that is that really all of those technologies, whether it be services, UC, or security, more and more so today are being consumed in an as-a-service model. So it made sense to really start having the conversation and frame it through that lens, to help our partners build out as-a-service models for that.
I know D&H has a long history. It's a Pennsylvania company. I can say that as a Pennsylvanian. Long history in the IT services space, the IT space. I remember going to the museum probably like 15 years ago that they had down in Harrisburg. So it sounds like a very good company to be working with, and you've got some fun people to work with over there too. Our old friend Peter DeMarco, I know, is there, and a few other people from the industry.
Yeah, it really is a great culture. It's a 103-year-old company, as you mentioned. We're an ESOP company, which is a bit different. Everybody's a co-owner, which really just drives a different culture across the organization. Very customer-centric, great group of people. And boy, I can't believe it's been a little over a year. We moved to our brand new headquarters in a state-of-the-art building just outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So I can't wait to be able to go out and travel again and see that building once again. So hopefully within the next couple months.
Yeah, I get through there quite a bit, going back and forth to Gettysburg. My daughters are down that way, so I'll if we ever get open again, I'll be sure to make some time and stop by. But very good. So let's talk about you a little bit. What do you enjoy doing outside of work, especially right now when there's so many things we can't do?
I got to be careful because you mentioned Peter DeMarco. If he sees this, he wants to think that all I do is work. But if he's not listening, I'll tell you that I really enjoy music, both listening to it and playing music, kind of playing in a bar band on the weekends and stuff, again, kind of pre-COVID and hopefully post-COVID. Also enjoy sports, both playing a little bit as well as watching and, reading in that. So I try to keep busy.
Yeah, no. And I know you do a lot of cycling too, at least when there's not 2 feet of snow on the ground. So
correct. Yeah. I'm up here in Buffalo. So this isn't the time of year for that.
Yeah. Okay. I got to ask you a quick question. Whenever I have somebody from Buffalo on, best Buffalo wings.
Yeah, that's a tough one because most people are going to tell you either the Anchor Bar, which is the original, or Duff's. But I'm probably going to tell you the Bar Bill is one of my favorites. They're in East Aurora, and they opened up another location just north of Buffalo as well. But that one or Jeannie McCarthy's down in the old First Ward, the old Irish section of Buffalo, I think have the best wings. And anybody that gets wings, you have to have blue cheese. We don't allow or will not serve ranch dressing with them up here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's just sacrilegious to have ranch. My wife will disagree with me, but I'm pretty firm on that part. So no, that's great. I always look for new places to go to. I don't think I've been to either of the ones you recommended. So I'll take note of that.
Let me know when you're coming up.
Will do. So let's talk about again, and we'll switch to the career side. How did you end up with a career in the IT services industry? I don't know if I've ever had this discussion.
Well, I wish I could tell you it was like some master plan, but in all honesty, I'd say I needed a job is what that started at.
Important one, yeah.
I was selling shoes, right? And I figured if you can sell shoes, you can sell anything. So I applied for a job at a distributor up here in Buffalo, and kind of worked my way from an inside sales rep. And when I left there after about 20 years, next thing I knew, I had been running their cloud and services business for almost 10 years of that. So it was really kind of an accident. But once you get into technology, you realize that there's so much going on. It's so fast paced, so many different roles you can play. It really is an exciting industry, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think you've been in the industry as long as I can remember, anyway, and you look much younger than I do. It's been kind to you, at least. That's the good part.
Just the zoom camera that does that. Yeah, the lens that I have.
I need better lighting. That's my problem. I need better
There you
lighting.
go.
So great. So all of your efforts evangelizing the cloud to the IT service community must be paying off quite well right now, because I know you've been an advocate for many years, at least as the model for MSPs. How has the pandemic affected the cloud adoption?
It's a great question, Brian. I think, cloud, I think was trending, obviously if you're looking for fast growth areas, cloud is definitely a place that you want to be. And it always made sense to me early on, because when you think about, I always compared cloud to an electric company. You tell people that, why would you want to go build an electrical grid in your backyard? Certainly you can do it, but you make a big capital investment, you own all the management, right? Things like that. Whereas if you work with the electric company, you just pay for what you use. And if you really want to simplify it, cloud's the same way, right? You're subscribing to an SLA, and you're going to pay for whatever you're using out of that. As far as the pandemic, that's just driven acceleration to it, because I think some of the technology drivers include things like the ability to be able to connect, not necessarily back to from the home office into the corporate offices, right? If you're working in the business world, because of things like latency and VPN requirements and things like that, it makes sense to use cloud solutions, and especially SaaS solutions, that you can just access through the internet and any device like that, without having to go through so much latency, was a big piece of it. And in addition, I think you find that a lot of the SaaS oriented tools really improve productivity. If it wasn't for the pandemic, I don't know that some of these platforms like Zoom that we're using here, Microsoft Teams, Cisco WebEx, that just drove massive amounts of adoption, the need to collaborate. People started using CRM tools a lot more, and different video conferencing tools and file sharing tools. And almost all of those are cloud delivered. So, I think this was a path that we were on, as a society moving towards these, but or rather the pandemic accelerated all of that. And quite honestly, I think it's here to stay. People are finding that they could be very productive using these cloud solutions.
No, I think that makes great sense too. I think if anything, the last year has shown the value of all the cloud tools, mobility tools, and the MSPs that were big adopters of those early on are sitting. I won't say sitting pretty right now, because there's a lot of companies still struggling, but they're in good shape and just trying to figure out the next things that they can add, and what comes next to build out their portfolios.
Agreed. And I think managed service providers, I've always believed that, when you look at the different types of channel profiles, right? Like whether you're a value added reseller or a retailer or an MSP or a systems integrator, I always felt that the MSPs had the greatest propensity or skills to be able to deliver cloud solutions. Partly because, number one, when you look at it financially, a lot of cloud is sold on a monthly subscription basis, which is easy to bolt on financially to their managed service agreements that tend to be invoiced and recognized the same way. So it's logical to add more recurring revenue. Number two is that a lot of these cloud solutions, they have standardized interfaces and portals, and it actually brings down the cost of service delivery if an MSP can get their customers to standardize on those types of tool sets like that. So they increase their profit when they bring down their cost to serve. So it makes a lot of sense for cloud. But I do think the pandemic's introduced some real challenges for MSPs. First of all, they need to become more, I think, intimately acquainted with supporting all these different cloud services and platforms. They might not have had to provide that phone support and that triage support like they did in the past, and now they really do to be able to serve their client. And secondly, even the fact that they're dealing with home users that might be working different hours than they're used to, or working on home networks where at the end of the day, it could be the network's fault, but the MSP is still going to be the one that's blamed, even though they didn't set that up. So, pros and cons to the MSP model through this crisis.
Yeah, and I think going back, I know you and I have talked about this. Is that D&H has a long history too of supporting IT service providers that have a lot of consumer and products too. So you have a unique mix. I'm not trying to sell D&H, but I know that the history is a little unique, which is probably a great thing now with all of the underlying needs of the home users, in addition to those that are working hybrid or even just temporarily from different offices.
No, agreed. We definitely cut our teeth in the consumer industry, as consumer electronics. I mean, back in the day, RCA TVs, right? But we kept that same type of channel and moved into more technology for consumers. It's only been in the last several years, maybe the last 20 years out of that 100, that we really started to build out a VAR business unit, we call it, which supports more of the B2B model. And that's been our biggest growth area, and it's starting to approach about half of our total revenue. So you mentioned Peter DeMarco; he's done a fantastic job laying out the game plan of how we're going to approach that market, and it's been a real success story. And I think we've really changed our profile, to be able to support those business models around things like cloud and services that we're offering. And one thing we haven't lost is our device business. That's a very consumer-oriented kind of start, but now we're really driving that through the VAR channel. And we ship as many devices really as any other distributor in the U.S. and Canada. So that's a huge booming business for us. And people talk about distribution going away because of cloud, right? And you can make an argument that the data center TAM is starting to shrink a bit as things move to cloud. But everybody needs a good endpoint device, or maybe multiple endpoint devices, to access cloud. And that's our sweet spot. So it's coming right back full circle to where we play the most.
I think I bought more devices in the last year than I bought in the previous 5 years. Just
I
to
read recently that the average person has like 3.4 devices that they use to access the internet on. So think about your smartphone, your laptop, and apparently some people have things. I mean, like whether it's an Amazon Alexa or other electronic devices that they're accessing the internet over. So it's a big market for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that leads to new opportunities too. I want to touch on that in a minute, but we were talking about kind of the transition with work from home and hybrid workforce. What portfolio changes are you seeing with partners over the past year? Are you noting any, transformations going on or trends?
Yeah, we are. I think there's a number of them. I think one of the things that we see, if we're talking about the software or cloud stack for a moment, is that I think Microsoft and the Microsoft 365 product specifically has been a high velocity product that lots of VARs and MSPs are selling. It's been a boom, right? Probably the biggest selling cloud product in the channel that we know and work with every day. However, I don't think that partners and their end clients were necessarily leveraging all the features that are in there. I'll use Teams as an example. And now you're seeing that Teams has become just exploding with usage, and that's what Microsoft's been trying to drive all along. And what's exciting too is they're advancing the feature set in Teams quite a bit more. They're not the only one, right? We're definitely seeing those collaboration platforms, but I guess my point there is that they're taking existing opportunities and then expanding them and leveraging the full capabilities. I think you mentioned laptop or devices like that. Some VARs and MSPs start to look at those devices as maybe not as attractive, right? Sometimes it's a commodity. It's not sophisticated. They don't need my services for it. Well, I tell you what, there's not a higher demand product category right now than those devices when it comes to people getting their hands on them. So whether it's devices or headsets and all those kind of mobile pieces of hardware that people need to work from home, that's become hot, and people that can get them are making I think a lot of profit off of it. So we're seeing that. And then when you wrap services around it, so for example, another category is just really the we call them white glove services at D&H, which is really just kind of the setup and delivery of those to get them running. So we run a lot of those devices through our call it our assembly line, right, to be able to image it, asset tag it. And we use service deliveries technologies such as Microsoft's Autopilot to be able to image that very quickly and get it delivered to the customer for use. So those have been some of the hot categories that we've seen boom for us.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. What do you see as obviously Microsoft? I think is doing well. And to your point, I'm even seeing many of the companies I work with had Slack. They were utilizing Zoom more. Now they're kind of coming back to Microsoft and leveraging more of the Teams to that integrated approach. Plus, it saves them a little money too for all of these extra solutions they're using. But what do you see as kind of the next the next point? What will be hot, whether it's 6 months from now or a year from now? Any new things coming out that can provide some recurring revenue for MSPs?
Well, I think you're right. The collaboration platform is just the tip of the iceberg, where people are using it for videos, calls, chats, messaging, all of that, which is great. I think where we're starting to see some of the more advanced MSPs and channel partners really get involved with is, things like the collaboration layer when it comes to file sharing. So products that we see, such as Dropbox, is a big one that we're really starting to see people adopt, and it really is a platform. You can build workflows on that. It's not just a matter of sharing a file, but it's a way to build out catalogs, for people to access things. And again, you can access it from any device without a VPN. So it's really works well for this remote workforce. So that's been, I think, kind of an evolving category that we're going to see even more development with. Some of the other things I think that people are using, one that might just kind of maybe you didn't think of, but is e-signature solutions.
Mhm.
So as people are working from home, I don't know about you, but I really hate when someone sends me a PDF that I got to print and sign it. And, honestly, I admit I don't have a scanner here. So I'm taking a picture with my phone and, scanning it in and sending it back. I tell you what, I love some of the products like, we carry a product called AirSlate, or there's another one called HelloSign, which is part of Dropbox now, that we're seeing people really adopt. So it's these productivity tools to allow you to work from anywhere that are the next layer of solutions that'll be out there.
Yeah, no, that's a good point because by the way, my printer's broken again as of yesterday. So yeah, I understand that struggle. It's like I don't want to have to print off documents and write them. E-signature things are so much simpler these days. I keep pushing those on some of the companies I'm working with because it's just we know it works. It's secure, and yeah, I'd love to see more of that.
Sure thing.
So, with cloud adoption accelerating, what precautions should MSPs be taking to protect their business clients? You talked about cloud, the peripheral objects. I mean, I'm looking at my desk right now, and I've got probably 5 things I didn't have a year ago, and they all connect in, and many of them connect into the internet. Uh, what should we be doing on the security side?
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think that security, the approach that we're seeing successful MSPs take is security has to be layered, right? There's a lot of ways to be able to do that. And although in some cases, maybe you're not using a VPN the way that you maybe did in the past to access everything, I think, multi-factor authentication for some of these cloud products is something that you definitely want to make sure that you're setting up as one of those layers for security. So, that's one. Password management solutions is another one. So people aren't just, putting their passwords all over the place. You want to have those encrypted and stored. As we're seeing these tools, like people are using, obviously email and other productivity solutions, making sure that you've got layers of security, such as encryption with that, such as, security for malware and spam and things. And then, in addition to that, even just backing up and archiving, files and email and things like that, that's part of security protocol.
Mhm.
So I think those are all some of the examples of some of the products that we're seeing, that are just kind of, have to be deployed. And that's on top of any of the hardware type security, like endpoint device protection and things like that have to be taken care of. So, to me, a good MSP is going to probably be using 6 or 7 different security products within their stack if they're doing it properly.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. And I know that, distributors like D&H are known for the value you provide for procuring, shipping equipment. But I know a lot of times I get questions about, where's the fit in 2021 for distribution, and what specific role do you play in the delivery of, we talked about earlier, cloud solutions, other services? How's that fit today? Can you give us a little background on why they should come to companies like D&H as opposed to just going direct to cloud companies and other?
Yeah, absolutely. So the premise hasn't changed of what distribution does, which is aggregation, right? And aggregation used to be you take a device, you put it on your shelf, it's there when you need it, and you pick, pack, and ship it. And we still do that at scale, right?
Mhm.
That's just table stakes. But when it comes to cloud and services, first of all, we need to have a virtual warehouse, which we happen to call our D&H Cloud Marketplace. And what that does is we've taken the time to carefully select the portfolio of cloud services, and they're integrated to the platform on the back end via API. So what this does is it gives real-time connection to the vendors' platforms to allow MSPs to be able to put together a product solution, in the marketplace is very good at making recommendations on what a good solution would be for, based on the business need. But then you can purchase, provision, manage a subscription, and receive a consolidated monthly invoice through that same platform. And that might not sound like rocket science, but think about without that. If you're working direct with individual vendors, you're going to be sprayed with individual invoices that are certainly not timed together, that you're writing multiple checks at different times a month and different subscriptions for each end user. What our value is we put that all together into one platform, one invoice on once a month. And we even integrate that into, common MSP tools for invoicing, like products like ConnectWise or Datto's Autotask, for example, right? To really fully automate the process. So it's all about automation when it comes to the modern digital quote unquote warehouse. It's all about the platform. The other thing we do is that I mentioned earlier that it's becoming much more of an as a service business model, everything. So we play a big role in that. It's not just pre-sale support to help people choose anymore. We're involved with the post-sale support to aggregate, one phone call or one ticket so that we can look across that multi-vendor stack and help to be that first layer of support on behalf of our MSP so they don't have to make multiple calls. It's about us doing those white glove services I mentioned when it comes to devices and even the software to get it up and running and get everything imaged and integrated together. It's about a management layer for managed security where we're managing that device, we're managing the security for that device. And the way we approach it is we help our partners understand all the different things that have to happen in the life cycle of services around a product. And then we say, okay, this is going to happen. Would you like to do it? Or would you like us to arrange to have that done for you? And it really makes it really easy for our partners to make a choice. And then, well, that's my core business. I'm going to do that. And we say, fantastic, have at it. And if they have a gap maybe in their service capabilities or their scale, we step in and supplement that for them. So, to me, that's the role of the modern distributor in a cloud or an as a service world.
Yeah. I think the two pain points that we run into a lot, especially for MSPs that are going into new areas for their business, is flexibility. So some of the vendors, for example, will have some limits that, you can't get involved with me unless you're making X commitment, where I could see distribution can help. Can lower some of those limits for them. And the other one is efficiency, to your point, is helping to automate some of those things that are going on the procurement on the back end, or even alleviating some of those money losing services that MSP sometimes can get into. I think we've seen many partners that do that. They want to offer everything, but they can't efficiently offer everything. So they need help in those areas. Those some of the areas where you see like D&H and others being able to step in.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I could go on and on about it, but there's a lot of ways that we're stepping up and making those commitments and providing that scale. Another area that is, I think, critical to the success of the channel that we do as a distributor is financing. So when it comes to a hardware world, certainly we provide trade credit and the right lines of credit and flexible financing options to be able to handle those transactions, but in this as a service world, we've really evolved, and I think we've cracked the code on a great program. We call it the X as a Service program. So what we do essentially is we allow a partner to put together call it the bill of materials, where it's often going to have the hardware and the devices, it's going to have the services that wrap around it, and it's going to have the software and cloud subscriptions all together in one package. And then what we do is we put that into a monthly payment plan for the end customer on behalf of our MSP. Mm-hmm. And the good news for them is we even accelerate the payment for the term of the service. So if it's a 3-year or 4-year service agreement, we pay the MSP up front for the full 3 or 4 years while the end customer still gets their monthly payment option. So that's been one of our fastest growing financing programs. And I'm actually really excited that we're going to be launching a full-fledged X as a Service configuration tool to allow our MSPs to easily put these solutions together. And because we really respect the MSP model and their role in service delivery, they can actually add in their own services or products if they would rather deliver that than have D&H do it. But either way, again, it's about the life cycle where we show them what's going to go into the solution, and then kind of says who's going to do what, and then we help them put that solution together. But that tool will be online within the next several weeks at D&H.
Yeah, it's all about recurring payments and recurring revenue these days. So the monthly, I can't think of anything we don't do that's monthly anymore, other than, and you can do the same thing for hardware and devices too. So It just makes
One of
more
the
sense.
challenges, and Brian, you've been in this MSP world a long time, is that I'm not dating you, but it's true. But
It's been a
one of
while.
the challenges is that conversion. As you convert from something that was paid for up front, it's a multi-year, use case, let's say, and moving that to monthly. It's been on the MSP then to kind of defer the revenue and the profit. Well, guess what? They still have to pay employees. They have a lease, maybe they've got expenses. That's a tough transition. And that program I just mentioned, the X as a Service one, we accelerate that cash flow so that that transition is easy. And if it all works out really well, they actually get faster cash than they did before. And for small to medium businesses, cash is king. It's just there's nothing more important when it comes to financials.
No, no, that's perfect. Now, the one thing I wanted to circle back on too is the cybersecurity element. Obviously, at IOTA, we tend to favor cybersecurity opportunities for the channel. What what areas do you see partners coming to you for that type of support? So, can you give me some examples of how they would involve D&H on the cybersecurity side?
Yeah, I think there's two broad areas that we're working with security. And, as I mentioned, we moved the security practice underneath the cloud and services business unit last August. So we've been working really hard on evolving that business, right? But, the first thing that we're doing is we're expanding our portfolio and automating it. So you're seeing us add additional solutions, additional vendors to take that layered security approach, and wherever possible, automating it on the cloud marketplace with the API. So everything is real time, able to be transacted monthly, fully integrated, and just easy to use for our partners. The second thing we're doing is we're investing in managed security services. So, we announced this a couple of months ago, and we said it'll be in market in the March timeframe, and we're on track to do that. But we're going to have a full managed security solution where we can provide managed endpoint security or managed infrastructure security that our partners can resell as an SLA, as a statement of work, if you will. So we've got pre-sales engineers that will actually put together those custom SOWs, combine that with any required hardware or software that's needed, working with our partner to do that, and then delivering that full statement of work in a monthly payment model, just like using that X as a Service program I mentioned. So that's another way we're tackling security. And frankly, I think that's the really modern way to do security is delivering it to the end client as a service. Frankly, it's just becoming so complex that I don't think a lot of end clients can handle all that security themselves, and they really need a partner to come in and do it. So that puts all the burden on the MSP. And like I said, we want to talk to our MSPs and find out what role are you going to play and where could we play a role, whether it's the support or certain elements of that service delivery we could take care of on behalf of that MSP and with that MSP.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point because the one thing we found, I think, with the transition to work from home is there's more companies than ever right now that need full cloud support. There's more companies than ever that need complete cybersecurity with so many endpoints floating, out, however large the geographic region may be, and to be managed. So that can be difficult, not just for large MSPs, may be capable and have all these things together, but if you've got 5 or 10 employees, you can get really taxed trying to deliver all of these things to an ever increasing sized workload. The endpoints are everywhere now. So is that the opportunity where you see like D&H being able to step in and fill some of those gaps, or to provide the complete service model where they need it?
Absolutely. Again, our role is looking at the life cycle of it. Security is one of those components, and we are going to help educate the partner, or say what role are you going to play, and can we help fill those gaps for you. The other thing I would say is that if we go back 5-10 years, Brian, I think we used to see channel partners that said, I'm a security partner, I do security, and that was like a specialization of some kind. And now what we see is that security is pervasive across every channel partner. You don't get the option to say, I have a security practice or I don't. If you don't have a security practice, you're not in business, right? Or you're not going to be for long. It just has to be included in part of every solution, especially as we move to an as a service model where the expectation is that MSP is taking care of security. That you're going to see that they will be held liable if there's a security issue. So they need to make sure that they have a good security plan, and frankly, that they're charging for that to the end client, and in laying out what that value is they're providing in their SLAs and their SOWs.
No, that makes perfect sense. I think security is an area where you almost need collaboration because every client can be different. and it's difficult for a smaller mid-sized MSP to provide everything to everybody without having collaboration partners. And
Absolutely.
that's the trend, not just of the future. I think that's going to be forever. I mean, just think about like a security operations center is it's getting to the point where everybody needs one, but not every MSP can provide it.
And that's exactly where, we step up, is that as we start to understand, the capabilities and business models that our partners and MSPs have, many of them don't have a separate SOC service. And depending on the vertical market they're in, they might actually have to separate, the notification of a security incident versus the remediation of that incident too, which just doubles the cost of labor. So that's where a lot of partners are turning to us and saying, can you help us kind of scale this labor that we need to run this business? And, that's where we're happy to step in and do that.
Cool. Well, it makes it easier. Sometimes they have to scale it down. So you like to have a partner that allows you to do that too. That's
Correct.
not
Yeah.
always easy. Very good. Well, unfortunately, our time always runs out too fast on the podcast. But any final thoughts before we sign off you'd like to share? Hey, let me start first off. Is how can people get in touch with you and learn more about D&H?
Yeah, sure thing. So, Jay Bystrak, Jbystrak at D&H.com, or you can go to www.dandh.com. You'll find out all about, what we're up to here. We'd love to talk with you a little bit about helping to build out your business with that. As far as what I'd love to leave people with, first of all, I really appreciate what IOTSA is doing. I think you guys are a great organization and really kind of a modern, community group that more MSPs and channel partners should be paying attention to. So thanks for all the hard work you and the team and everybody's doing there. A lot of respect for all of you. And we would love to talk to more partners about, really getting into this X as a service model and being able to kind of modernize the way that they're helping their partners consume technology and wrapping the right services around it. And that's going to keep them viable, and that's going to help make them more profitable in the long run. So we look forward to doing that.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. We thank you for coming on today. And before we sign off, I'd like to remind our listeners to subscribe to the Secure Connections podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. And you can listen to past episodes on iotsa.com. On behalf of IOTSA, I'd like to thank Jason Bystrak of D&H Distributing for joining us today. And we hope he'll come back sometime soon to catch up with us again. So thanks again for joining us, and have a safe and secure day. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.